Now, as we get to the end of this generation, especially with the PlayStation 5, it's been a very, very weird generation because PlayStation has literally had no competition when it's come to consoles. Xbox have been out of the race, they've been putting their first party games onto PlayStation, and it feels like they just waved the white flag. And you know what? We've seen what it's like when a company has no competition. Now, if you ask anyone in regards to PlayStation what the problem has been, it's been the lack of first party games. Now, PlayStation have invested and they have wasted so much money on live service games. It's been abysmal when you come to think about it. They have been so desperate to get that Fortnite money. They've had games like Concord. They've had games like Marathon. Some people may say that's enjoyable, but they have lost over 95% of their audience. You've had games like Fair Games that hasn't even come out. And with one of their main studios, Guerrilla Games, we're still waiting for Horizon 3. So if you do enjoy these videos, make sure you hit the like button. And let's talk about this live service game because it is not looking good. As you all know, quite a few months ago, we had a reveal of Horizon Hunters Gathering. And what's crazy about this is that Sony have been pushing Horizon on a lot of people. It feels like for some reason they have thought that Horizon has been their most popular franchise, which I would argue that it hasn't. Now, I do like Horizon, but I don't go as far as saying that I love it because Horizon 1 was pretty cool. It was very, very new. It was weird with all of those machines. Forbidden West I enjoyed, but I just felt like it was more of the same with Horizon, and I did find it a little bit draining with that open world. And then we obviously got games, we got like a Lego Horizon game, and then we've got announced a mobile Horizon game, Frontiers or something, I can't even remember. And then we've got a live service game, another one for console called Hunter's Gathering. Now, when we first saw this, I was like, who the hell was asking for this game? I cannot believe they went for the Fortnite sort of vibe. They say this is canon to the Horizon universe, and then you've got characters that have got some sort of superpowers. And now it feels like they are continuing to fail in their live service trend. And this game is nowhere near coming out and it's having massive freaking problems. And if we give this a read, it's confirmed that PlayStation is scaling back Horizon live service PS5 game as Sony failures continue.
Oh no! What happened? Oh no! How terrible! That's just awful! How terrible! Oh no!
And what is the most frustrating thing about this game is that most of Guerrilla were working on this live service game, and there's only a very small team that is working on Horizon 3, and that game is years away. And if you've played Forbidden West and the DLC, it's ended in a way where it's not finished. Like, I'm curious to know what happens with that trilogy. And it looks like we are nowhere near going to get this because they have decided to try and get that Fortnite money.
Nice.
There was a play test, and I think on the website you could actually apply to be part of this test. I don't think, well, I wasn't too bothered about that. But Guerrilla Games has been rebooting the project since June because it's got poor feedback from players during this private test. So the scope of the game has shrunk considerably as a result, it's claimed. The project has not been cancelled, but in a meeting, staff were told they have until December to impress executives with their next milestone. And Jason Schreier reports, as a result of the reduced scope, many Guerrilla developers have been reassigned to a different project. The project has also been evaluated at the end of the year. And then he says a tiny team has been working on Horizon 3, the next single player entry, but it is still years away. I still can't believe we've got people like Herman Hulse still in charge, because the amount of failures we have had with live service, it's like incredible that we've had all of these price increases for consoles, for PS Plus. We've had millions and millions of pounds from PlayStation wasting on their studios that are predominantly known for single player games because they have been desperate for this live service. Like Concord, it was going to be the next Star Wars. You had a DualSense, you had a massive launch for this game, and then it got cancelled after 2 weeks. And now you can clearly see that no one was asking for Hunter's Gathering. And then you've got till December to save this game. They've had more than 10 projects, and most of them have been either cancelled or they have flopped. They have spent 3.6 billion dollars to acquire Destiny 2 developer Bungie, and that hasn't worked out, which is freaking crazy. And you know what's even more crazy when you think about it? And some people have said, and I've said, we've got games like God of War Laufey and Marvel's Wolverine. I'm not saying I'm not excited for those games, but they're very samey. And this is, I think, the problem with where PlayStation and Sony have gone. Everything is so the same formula on what they're used to. Like God of War Laufey is a God of War skin. You've got Wolverine, which we've seen. It looks like a good game, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't feel like, oh wow, this is going to take it to the next level. Like we saw that new Black Myth game from Game Science, and the combat looks incredible. The graphics look amazing, and it does feel different from Black Myth Wukong. And I know that game is years away, but it feels like that sort of game, that sort of vibe, I'm really freaking excited for. And Phantom Blade Zero, I'm definitely more excited for that than I am for Wolverine. And it just feels like with Hunter's Gathering, I don't know anyone that is excited by this. And you know what's even more crazy is that if you're going to do a live service game, they've got IPs that would actually potentially work as a live service game. If you wanted to do a live service game, you've got IPs like Resistance, Killzone. If you really wanted to do a live service, why didn't you try doing something like that? Even with The Last of Us and Naughty Dog, that was actually something that people were actually open and excited to see, and then you go and cancel it. So it tells me that there is a massive problem with PlayStation, and they're continuing to dig their own grave, which is just completely bonkers. Stopping physical games in 2028, all of these price increases, bringing out games that nobody's asking for. I can't believe how distant they have become from their audience. And again, another studio, Naughty Dog, have not been here this generation. What's even more, I wouldn't even call it surprising. Personally, with Intergalactic, I think that game's going to be an absolute flop. I'm not excited to play that game. I know we've got one trailer, but typically with Naughty Dog and typical Neil Druckmann, they're putting out a protagonist that, again, is controversial, but it's a character who are like, okay, this doesn't look like an exciting character to play. And of course, Neil Druckmann would put someone, someone who looks like me as a female to play. I'm sure people are very excited, but we've got news that Intergalactic, the Heritage Prophet, might need to be edited to avoid another Last of Us 2 situation. What the hell? And this article came out the other day. A game development consultant, Russell, recommends his former employees spare its next game from the prolonged development period it is accustomed to. Now, he's saying that we could be looking towards the PS6 generation, which is flipping, like, this is crazy. Like, Naughty Dog have not been here this generation. And what he says also is that the Heritage Prophet's protracted production period is the result of another Last of Us 2 situation. It's termed for Naughty Dog's eagerness to map a concise story to overstuffed gameplay. It might need to be edited in that regard. So he goes on to say the Heritage Prophet seemingly grisly melee combat is also new for Naughty Dog, whose action segments are usually more strategic than aggressive. Still, in Russell's experience, Naughty Dog can struggle in achieving new ideas, even in those few years after the first Uncharted game came out in 2007, when Naughty Dog was releasing sequels and spin-offs on a nearly annual basis. Russell recalls the developer struggling to perfect its melee combat. He says, we wanted brawling and all that kind of stuff, but it was a massive investment. I generally think these 7-year projects, you can get them back down to 5. I think you could at least cut 2 years off them, if not maybe a little bit more, just by defining yourself, getting that North Star solid right in the beginning. And it's not a difficult thing to do. And honestly, I've been saying since day one, I think this is Neil Druckmann's last game. I think people are not happy with Neil Druckmann like myself, and I think this will be the test from how unhappy people were from The Last of Us Part 2. Now, some people will say it's the best game ever made. Cool, that's understandable, that's debatable. But my point is, with how much he's kind of lost the faith of his fans, this will be the test on whether people are going to show up to this game that's cost around $300 million. And this might be coming out on the PlayStation 6. So there is a massive problem with Sony, and not to mention Marathon. Marathon has lost over 95% of its players on Steam. And if you remember, most of the players that bought this game were on Steam. This was the next big thing. This is why Sony bought Bungie for $3.6 billion, because they wanted that live service. And again, I haven't bought the game. It's just not a game for me. I want a single player story driven game. It does look pretty cool. For me, it's not a game I would be buying for an extraction shooter. No, not for me. So it says the game's still struggling more than ever now, despite launching less than 6 months ago. Season 3 launches next month, but it remains to be seen if Bungie can save the game. And I think this game will be shut down soon. And God knows what's going to happen to Bungie. How can Marathon continue like this? How can you continue to invest money and keep making new seasons, new updates, new things for this game where hardly anyone is actually playing this game? We've had Concord, we've had all of these failures from Sony, and it is baffling that this guy, where is he? It's just baffling that this guy is still freaking here. This guy needs to freaking go. Going into the PlayStation 6 generation, if Sony was still delivering physical games and they realized in this generation that they need to go back to single player games and making exceptional stories, then I think they could salvage and actually have a successful next generation, despite having potentially a console that is going to cost well over 1,000. But now you're looking at a company that their next generation console is going to cost well over 1,000. You're going to have no physical discs, and it is evident that your customer base are pissed off. People can say what they want. Oh, it's a minority. This is still going on today. You have pissed off a lot of old school gamers and a lot of people that have been with you from the start, and now you've invested millions and millions into these live service failures. And I'm trying to think, where is the next big story game that I'm like a brand new IP? God of War Laufey, I'm excited to play it because of God of War and because of the story of Faye. Do I think it's going to be incredible gameplay and it's going to be so revolutionary? No, it's going to be more God of War. We've got Wolverine. I'm excited for it, but not in the way I was for something like Ghost of Tsushima when I played that game. And this is the problem with Sony. Unless you're making a Days Gone 2, unless you're making a Bloodborne 2, or you're making a revival of Resistance or Killzone, I don't know how you sell this next generation, but oh my gosh, what a generation it has been. So what do you think about PlayStation and Horizon Hunters Gathering, the next generation of gaming with the PlayStation 6? Do you think they can go back to making incredible stories? And are you on board with it? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let me know.